welcome to this short video on some of the new features inside InfoWorks ICM 2021.1. The first one I wanted to talk about in this instance is related to excluded objects. So what I have here is a network. That network makes use of scenarios. So I have an excluded object scenario, and what we can see here is that to the east of the network, there are a number of objects which have been removed or deleted inside this scenario, but they still exist inside the base. So if I switch back to the base network scenario, then we can see that all the objects are present. If I move to the excluded objects scenario, I can see that these have been removed. Now they're still visible because under our properties and themes and the visuals tab, there is an option to show base scenario objects ghosts. And ghosts is just the reference to these objects, which we know exist in the base but don't exist in the current scenario. Now previously, in earlier versions of InfoWorks ICM, if you wanted to get access to any of these objects in the scenario, you would have had to use the Restore Excluded Objects button. If I click this button and say yes, that will restore all of the objects that were removed. There was no option to restore a subset of these scenario objects, so it was either restoring everything in the network or not restoring anything. If I revert that change, one thing that we've done with InfoWorks ICM 2021.1 is to add additional functionality that allows us to toggle the select feature. So there's a new toolbar button called Excluded Object Select. If I toggle that to an on position, I am now able to select excluded objects from the scenario. So here I've selected a single node, one link, and one subcatchment. And if I go to Restore Selected Excluded Objects, what this will do is will allow me to restore that subset of the total deleted objects from the scenario. So now it's only giving me the 3 objects that are being restored, and if I click yes, we can see that those 3 objects then get restored and nothing else in this scenario does. So really quite powerful in that sense and gives a lot more flexibility. Another thing that I can do is go to my excluded objects grid, and inside this excluded objects grid I can make a selection of objects. I've got some nodes, some conduits, and some subcatchments that I've just selected. And what I can do with that selection active is achieve exactly the same thing. So it's possible to restore a selection either directly from a geoplan select or to restore it from that excluded objects grid. That's the functionality I wanted to show on the scenarios, the restore for excluded objects. One other thing that we had a lot of requests for over the last year, especially during the COVID times, is to look into whether it will be possible to create an additional directory structure or level for master databases for InfoWorks ICM. So previously, when using workgroup databases, if I go to Open, Create Master Database, in here there was a database option for selection, but there was not this group option above it. And the database option allowed you to create a new database, but not new groups. So with this release of the software, this is one of the things that was requested most frequently, by the way, on our user voice portal, which gave it a lot of prioritization in our backlog. And so with this, we've added a new group feature. And what this means is that you can create a new group that might be called something like 2021.1 Office A, or maybe project based. And this is database 1. If I OK that, we can see that we now have a singular database that's under this group, and I can go to my different groups and see which databases are available in those groups. Now, one thing that I would say with this is that part of the power and part of the reason that it was requested so heavily is because with many people now working from home, some of the concerns that were raised were that working from home and then connecting to central servers that have the workgroup databases meant that there was more risk of perhaps people inadvertently populating things into databases they shouldn't be, or perhaps utilizing excessive amounts of storage with runs that are happening or storing those on servers, duplicating databases, or some of our clients actually wanted to segregate their databases by office location. And what this allows us to do is with the grouping of the databases, This means that we can enable the ability to set Windows permissions against those directories where those groups exist. And this is effectively a folder level up from where the database is previously sat in the SNumbat data. So there's far more data management and security that can be applied to these groups, and that's one of the main things that our clients were after. So I just wanted to show this new feature and let you know that we now have the group level above the database, which gives more structure to what you might be able to or want to set up for your workgroup databases. Thank you very much.